3, David Garrett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Order. I've called David. Order.
My question is to the Minister
David
of
Garrett.
Police and asks, why has the government agreed to support ACT's 3 strikes policy passing into law?
Mr Speaker, the Sentencing and Parole Reform Bill delivers on this government's pre-election promise to deny parole to the worst repeat violent offenders. Parole is not a right for prisoners, it is a privilege. This privilege is earned and should not be granted to those who demonstrate total disregard for the law by continuing to commit serious violent offences despite warnings. The bill will put the interests of victims and the wider community ahead of the interests of our worst serious violent offenders.
David Garrett.
Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister, what is the level of public support for the 3 strikes policy?
The Honourable Judith
Mr
Collins.
Speaker, 94% of submissions supported the Sentencing and Parole Reform Bill. They stated their concerns about violent crime, public safety and the need to hold offenders to account. Many supporters wanted to redress what they described as the disparity between the rights of the offenders and those of victims, and to spare the victims the stress associated with repeat parole hearings. I'm also aware that an independent poll commissioned by that member's party showed 75% public support for this regime.
The Honourable Rick Barker.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister of Police, has she read the official advice that the National Act's 3 strike policy is unlikely to have a deterrent effect, will result in fewer guilty pleas, more appeals against convictions and sentences, and possibly an increased rate of homicide? And if so, why is the government proceeding with a policy that won't prevent crime, may lead to increased violent crime, and will clearly make things worse for victims?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, we've received an awful lot of advice, and some of it is actually something that the Labor Party would enjoy because of the soft approach it takes to victims. However, I believe it's very important to note that we received some very good advice on this issue, particularly from victims and their families. And I would remind that member that for most that offenders actually get a set period of sentence. Unfortunately, all victims get a life sentence every time.
David Garrett.
Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister, what impact will this bill have on the victims and families of victims of repeat offenders?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, this bill will ensure that the victims of repeat offenders and their families do not have to undergo the additional stress of attending regular parole hearings. This regime will also help stop people becoming victims. It is a sad fact that some high-profile murders would not have been committed if the perpetrators had been serving full sentences for their crimes. This government is serious about better meeting the needs of victims and putting victims at the heart of our justice system, something the previous Labor government didn't care about.
Rahui Katane.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, is she concerned about claims from QC Peter Williams that the 3 strikes policy is hysterical legislation and that taking away parole means that there is no deterrent for crime and there is also no incentive for people to rehabilitate? And is this the direction that she thinks the police should be promoting?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
No, Mr Speaker, no. Mr Williams has spent a lifetime defending the worst repeat violent offenders in this country.
Question number 4, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you.